Welcome to Word on the Beach, Green Street Advisor's monthly market insights for April 2010. Joining me via video conference from Green Street's Newport Beach headquarters to talk about the mall sector is Jim Sullivan, Managing Director and head of the firm's retail sector team. In many ways, tenant sales growth is the lifeblood of mall operators. Are you seeing any reason for optimism in this area?
Well, Matt, I think it depends on whether you're talking about the near term or the intermediate term. I think in the near term, there's plenty of reason to be optimistic. The primary reason is that the stock market, the strength of the stock market has added about $6 trillion of net worth. So consumers are feeling better about their net worths and their spending power. And then secondly, the unemployment rate has at least stopped getting worse for the time being. Over the intermediate term, however, I think there's reason to be cautious, not pessimistic, but cautious. Number one, there are a lot of different opinions in terms of how strong this economic recovery is going to be, but I think it's hard to find someone who's really enthusiastic about the growth prospects. Second, rising taxes. When you think about sales, you need to think about disposable incomes. And rising taxes at the federal level, at the state level, are near certainty, and that's going to be a challenge in terms of how quickly sales can grow. And then finally, it's the savings rate. The savings rate, i.e. how much people save of the income that they get, for the 70s and the 80s and the 90s averaged about 8%. Last decade, that number went from 8% to something close to zero as people used their homes as ATM machines, etc. And it's our expectation that the savings rate has to go back to something like 8%. We've seen it grow to something like 4%. But as people save more, naturally that leaves less for them to spend, and that has important implications for tenant sales within malls.
Rents are still posing a challenge in the mall sector. So what are the factors that you're seeing that are continuing to fuel these rent declines?
Landlords are going to have a very difficult time commanding higher rents. Tenants, in addition to having the power in the lease negotiation, have also been forced to right-size the cost structure of their operations. Rents are an important part of their cost structure, and they're being more vigilant in terms of what they're willing to pay landlords. They don't have to pay a lot. They're not going to pay a lot. And as a consequence, that puts downward pressure on the rents that mall landlords can capture from their tenants.
And Jim, what about the supply picture? Is that going to help boost occupancy for malls?
Yeah, the giant silver lining for mall landlords is the supply picture. There is very little new construction going on right now. Most of what's going on is redevelopment as opposed to new development, so we don't see a large amount of square footage being added to the mall stock in this country, and it is our expectation that for the next several years we're unlikely to see new construction start in any sort of meaningful way within the mall sector.
Mall REITs underperformed other retail segments as well as the broader equity market in the first quarter of 2010. In your view, what factors would have to take place in order for the sector to start to outperform?
I would say that our pessimism with respect to intermediate growth and tenant demand and NOI growth and market rents, as we just talked about, I think our view is not unique. I think that market expectations are that the next 2, 3, 4 years we'll see some tepid results out of the mall companies. So to the extent that the operating results can exceed those tepid expectations, to the extent that the mall REITs can capture occupancy growth, to the extent that their market rent growth declines aren't as bad as the market currently expects, to the extent that retailers continue to report better than expected sales growth, to the extent we have that combination of things which generate positive operating fundamentals for the mall companies, the mall sector should outperform.
Great. Thanks, Jim. For REIT.com, I'm Matt Bishard.